All right, lots of fallout from the decisions that Shad Khan has made over the weekend, and even more fallout from the press conference. But we'll talk about it a little bit and how we move forward on this edition of Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It is your team every day here on Locked On Jaguars. We thank you for making us your first listen. I'm Tony Wiggins, the host of the Locked On Jaguars podcast, where you can find wherever you get your podcast, whether you watch them or listen to them. Make sure you tap into that location each and every day. Just want to make sure you guys know that today's show is sponsored and brought to you by FanDuel. You can end the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets. If you win or lose your first $5 bet, visit FanDuel.com to get started. Shout out to the everydayers for joining us every single day. We appreciate you. And if you're not, all you got to do is just join us every single day and you can be one. All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to end the show by me saying, I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong about the way I felt yesterday, the way I feel today. But it's my job to navigate you through all of the things that have to be decided here moving forward. And that's exactly what we're going to do. Control the controllable. All right. In the middle of the show, coaching search begins. I got a list of names, about 8 of them, in fact, that the Jaguars have put out requests for to interview. We'll see if those requests are honored. And we're going to start the show talking about the Shad Khan Trent Baalke connection. Sounds like a karate duo, right? Connection, Shad and Trent, but they are connected at the hip. And the reason why I'm going to get started with that is because it seems like there was a decision made and Shad felt like he had to make a choice between one or the other. I want to clear some things up from the press conference yesterday. I was on the Zoom call. Obviously, I wasn't able to put in a request to ask a question. I was there on time. It is what it is. I wasn't the only one, but that's neither here nor there. I would have asked him, though, the question I would have asked Shad Khan yesterday is, why did he feel like he had to make a choice? Why was it either or, and why was it not just a clean sweep? By the way, that clean sweep is something that he acted like he did not understand what people were talking about. He's normally not the type of person that does that. Even in the coaching changes that he's made before, he's never really made a clean sweep. When he bought the team, he brought Dave Caldwell in. They had Mike Mularkey already under contract. They kept him for a year. Then he moved on from Mike Mularkey. Eventually, he went through other coaches, Gus Bradley. He went through Doug Marrone. There was never a clean break. And then finally, once they fired Doug Marrone, there was a bit of a clean break. He totally started over with, well, not really, because Trent Baalke was the assistant GM at that time. He started over with Urban Meyer as the head coach, fired Urban Meyer, kept Trent Baalke. They got Doug Pederson. Now he's fired Doug Pederson. He still has Trent Baalke. So it could be that Shad doesn't really know what a clean sweep is. The funny part about it is when people were asking him that, I think he knew exactly what folks were talking about. But he was a little bit coy, and he started talking about the 85 people in the support positions in operations and talking about the medical staff and the wellness staff. Nobody talk about that. They talking about the coach and the GM. I will, though, to his credit, say this. A lot of times when coaches come in, they do clean. Like Urban Meyer came in, he didn't clean sweep Trent Baalke because he was still there. But Urban went through, not on the communication side of things, but Urban did go through with the strength and conditioning staff, the scouting department. Those guys all got purged and moved out. So that's a lot of moving parts. Every coach does not require that. A new GM probably would want his own scouts in. There's no doubt about that. And of course, all of the coaches. So I wouldn't say 85. I'd say maybe 30 or 40 people probably would have changed jobs. But a lot of teams around the league have done that. Washington did it last year. Detroit did it about 3 or 4 years ago. And you see what has happened. So that being said, Shad Khan owns the team and he can do exactly what he wants to do with it. That's just the bottom line. He can. He's been successful in a lot of other businesses and other entities. And you can't make a dude change his management style, and he shouldn't. And you shouldn't allow fans or media people to force you to make decisions. That's not what this is. What this is we all have opinions, right? And our opinion is especially my opinion. I'll talk about my opinion. My opinion about this football team is strictly based on the results, and it's strictly based on how we got to those results. And I think one of the most difficult things for anyone to do is to see a problem and be able to diagnose what exactly is wrong, especially when the way it is constructed. And I have no problem with the structure not being sort of like the military, where everything is about rank and everything is about making sure you stay in line and following the ranks and chain of command and all of that. I'm cool with going around, and I'm cool with talking to player councils, and I'm cool with having a word along with the GM, and I'm cool with having a word along with the coach. But at some point, there has to be a little bit more lockstep. I want this team to learn from the past. There has to be more lockstep there. I know Shad seems like the guy who doesn't want a dictatorship, but sometimes you can have a dictatorship when you don't know it. Like when someone has their own self-interest involved and they tell you what they want you to hear or believe. I just think Trent Baalke believes he's done a good job, and I disagree with it. That's just the bottom line. I think Baalke believes he's done a good job, and I disagree with it. I just want you to think about this. It is not only Doug Pederson's fault. It's not only Doug Pederson's fault that a few years back, Detroit and Jacksonville were picking 1 and 2, and now Detroit's favored to win the Super Bowl, and Jacksonville isn't. They made a mistake. If you want to say Doug Pederson was a mistake, that was a Baalke and Shad Khan mistake. Shad can't fire himself. They made a mistake. And I mean, Baalke didn't talk him out of it. I wonder if Baalke co-signed it. If you look at Doug Pederson as a mistake, then that's their mistake that they made. So that was the biggest one. Detroit didn't make that mistake. But I tell you this, you ask people in Detroit, you ask Dan Campbell, they would not be able to do what they do without GM Brad Holmes. And I do believe that there's just a connectivity there. I think there's a oneness to that relationship, and most of the ones that are successful around the National Football League. I'm just to the point where I just hope people learn from their mistakes, and we're not chasing our tail doing the same things, going around and around and around and around. I personally do not believe that this is going to work with Trent Baalke as the GM, but alas, here we are. And we have to talk about it. So now they're going to have a coaching search that, unlike most people, I don't think that this is a job that people will shy away from. These guys think that they can fix anything. They think they can fix anything. They're going to get paid a lot of money to fix it. Now, they might have varying opportunities to do that. Trent Baalke is the type of person that if you sit around and just talk ball with him, you'll believe it. You'll believe in him. That's just the truth. Shad is a nice enough person that when you sit and talk to him, you'll believe in him also. It's just that to get this thing to where they want it to go, they're going to have to show something that very rarely, maybe once or twice in 30 years, that this team has been able to do. And that is have this thing going smoothly the way it's supposed to go, where everybody believes in the same things and it's going in the same direction. I'm going to get into this coaching search stuff here in segment number 2. I hope y'all really, really enjoy it. I'll go through all of the list of guys and talk about the prospects. We'll do that as we move forward here on the second segment of Locked On Jaguars. Today's show is sponsored and brought to you by Prize Picks. Man, it is playoff time, and if you're like me, you want to make the most of these final weeks of football action. That's where Prize Picks comes in. If you love football and want a chance to win real money while watching the game, Prize Picks is the place for you. It's the best way to turn your sports opinions into cash with daily fantasy projections. With Prize Picks, you simply pick more or less. That's it. On player stats, like total passing yards or rushing touchdowns, and for a shot to win up to $1,000 on your money, You can make your picks in less than 60 seconds. And whether you're looking for a flex play to boost your payout or want cash quickly, you can cash out. Prize Picks has got you covered with over 10 million members and billions in winnings. It's clear the people are loving this platform. I've been playing for a while, and you can do the same thing. And now that the playoffs are here, guys like Saquon Barkley are going to definitely be getting the ball, so you can count on them getting those touches. Here's a special offer from Locked On NFL for our listeners. Download the app today and use the code Locked On NFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 bet. That's Prize Picks. Run your game. Now, download the app today. I rolling along here on Locked On Jaguars, where it's your team every day. Always thanking you for making us your first listen here on Locked On Jaguars. Coaching search, or at least the part of it where they make requests, it has begun. The Jacksonville Jaguars have put in numerous requests around the National Football League, 8 to be exact, and beyond the National Football League. In fact, I believe. No. David Shaw is still in the NFL. Let me run the names down for you as the Jaguars have put out interview requests per their X account. Kellen Moore is one of those names on the list. Offensive coordinator in Philadelphia. Todd Monken, offensive coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens. Joe Brady, offensive coordinator for the Buffalo Bills. Liam Cohen, the offensive coordinator for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions. The next three are all defensive coaches. Aaron Glenn for the Detroit Lions, Patrick Graham for the Las Vegas Raiders, and then Robert Saleh. He's a consultant right now for Green Bay. David Shaw is not on this list. But those are the names. So I'll go through it and talk about all of them, because yesterday it was really, really clear that the connection, I'll call them the connection, Shad and Trent Baalke were all really, really focused on the fact that the team was too predictable. I don't really know if they were predictable defensively. I think they were predictable offensively. If they were predictable defensively, well, there you go. That's Ryan Nielsen. That's your guy, right? The only thing that was, I can tell you what wasn't predictable was the fact that they kept shuffling people in and out, so you didn't know who was going to be in the game and who wasn't going to be in the game. I wouldn't necessarily call that predictability, but it is what it is. They want to be more innovative. It really, really sounds like what they're going to do is they're going to get an offensive guy to be the head coach. Now, they just had one, and it didn't work. And everybody wants to blame it on Press. That was Doug's offense. Press is his protege. He taught him. In order for Doug to have fired Press, Doug would have brought somebody in, and they would have had to run his offense too, or either Doug just would have went totally hands off. And then if he's going to do that, then what is he over there for, right? But the problem you have when you don't hire an offensive coach, and I'll agree with people that say this, is the one that Buffalo is about to have right now, and a lot of these teams, even Philly with Kellen Moore, even Baltimore with Todd Monken. See, they didn't like their other offensive coordinators. Then they got a new one, and now they're flourishing, and now they're about to lose that guy because their coach, with the exception of Nick Sirianni, their coach is pretty much a defensive guy. Well, John Harbaugh is a special teams coach. So they'll have to go out and find it. Here's my thing with that, and I want to make this very clear. You know who never has this problem? San Francisco. You know who never has this problem? The Los Angeles Rams. You know why? And people will say, well, it's because their coaches are the guys that all of these dudes are learning from, and their head coaches are offensive guys. No, that's part of it. But the other part of it is this. You know where Liam Cohen and Kevin O'Connell and all those guys were coaching? They were coaching for the Rams. You know what the Rams do to alleviate what other teams can do to alleviate that problem? That whoever your offensive coordinator is, get your quarterbacks coach, get your quality control coach, get your receivers coach. Do what the Rams, ironically, this is crazy. The Rams and the 49ers are the people that keep getting poached for their coaches. Why? Because they have a whole bunch of them stacked. Where do you think LaFleur and all of these dudes came from? They came from the same tree. So how about you get a tree here? It doesn't have to be from your head coach. It could be an offensive coordinator tree. Make sure that whoever you hire as an offensive coordinator, that you bring in a receivers coach and you bring in a quarterbacks coach and maybe even a running backs coach and a quality control coach. Just do what the Rams and the 49ers do if you don't have a head coach who is a defensive coach. Dan Campbell ain't no magical play caller. Do you hear anybody saying that the reason why they're good is just because of Ben Johnson? No, they're saying because Dan Campbell is a leader of men in Detroit, and that Dan Campbell is a guy who his entire imprint and his fingerprint and his DNA is all up and through that entire team. My question is this: would you take Dan Campbell to be your head coach? If you're so interested in just hiring a play caller, would you take Dan Campbell, who don't call no plays? Would you take Dan Campbell, who's a tight end, by the way? Would you take Dan Campbell to be your head coach right now? You're damn right you will. So here's what happens. Folks get lazy and they want to just go hire a dude that you can just add water to and think that it's going to turn into another situation. You don't have to stop at just hiring one guy. You can tell that dude, who do you recommend as an offensive coordinator? If you hire a head coach here and he's a defensive coach like, say, Robert Saleh or Aaron Glenn, then make sure you go out and make sure that coach goes out and tells his offensive coordinator, who's a young whippersnapper, the guy that everybody wants to be the head coach, you make sure that dude has a name of a quarterbacks coach, a wide receivers coach, and a quality control coach that he can bring with him that can be right behind him just in case he gets poached like these other coaches. Or y'all ain't gonna believe when I tell you this, have a list of dudes you already know that if you have success and your coach gets poached, you can go get another one, even if he's not on your own team. See, that's the part of this job that people act like these folks can't do. As if, well, we better make sure we hire the right head coach as our play caller, not remembering that these guys have to be leaders of men, not remembering that you just hired an offensive head coach and it didn't work, not remembering that Nathaniel Hackett is a play caller. And you see how that has worked out for him everywhere he's gone, right? Not remembering that it doesn't always work. And then when you start looking at the teams that's in the playoffs and then you realize there's a buffet or a smorgasbord of a whole bunch of people that come from a whole bunch of different backgrounds that you take in a heartbeat to be your head coach. You got to do the work, man. You just can't be lazy and think that you're just going to sprinkle some water on it like it's instant oatmeal or something. And all of a sudden, all of your wishes are going to come true and all of your fears of losing that person are going to disappear. The teams that do this for real, don't worry about that. Go look at the Chiefs. Why? How come the Chiefs keep finding people behind Andy Reid and those guys keep getting jobs everywhere, right? And then there's a guy named Blameyer. He's over there right now. All of these dudes are just in line waiting for their shot. But you're Jacksonville, you think you got to make sure it's the head coach and the head coach only and nobody else. And you're just going to forget about the rest of the part of the team and the rest of the qualifications that a guy needs to be a head coach. The only one of those pure play callers that's won anything is Sean McVay. Everybody else ain't won nothing. Of course, I ain't talking about Andy Reid, but you get my point. They keep getting beat by everybody else. So, you know, Josh McDaniels was considered a wizard and a play caller twice, and he got 2 jobs and he failed because he wasn't a leader of men. And it's more than just about calling plays when you're the head coach. So I hope the Jaguars get this right. You have the names. They're probably going to get one of them, and you guys will be very, very happy with it. And Trevor will be happy with it, and there'll be a lot of enthusiasm. But if this thing isn't in lockstep, it won't work. It won't work. And I don't know that any of those guys, I did ask someone today if someone who knows very well, he knows who he is, he's listening too, if Liam Cohen would work with Trent Baalke. I did not get an answer, and I'm not surprised that I didn't get an answer because he shouldn't answer that question. You don't limit your opportunities before the opportunities come. We'll see who accepts that and who doesn't. I think all of them will accept it because you got to at least talk to people and see what's going on and what's happening. I hope I'm wrong that I don't think it's going to work. I'll tell you why I don't think it's going to work, but then I'll tell you why I hope I'm wrong. We'll talk about that more here on Locked On Jaguars. Today's show is sponsored and brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. I love going to live events, whether it's sports, music, theater, or comedy. One of my favorite memories was attending a concert last year, and the energy and excitement, it was just absolutely unforgettable. Now, Game Time has made it even easier to get tickets for your favorite events with their new feature, Game Time Picks. This feature filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands and thousands of tickets that have nothing to do with what you're looking for. I was recently looking for tickets to an event, Super Bowl weekend in Washington, and I found it. Hang out in DC for the Super Bowl, and I found tickets to a super deal that was sitting there waiting on me, man, and I got it at Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code. I'm going to spell it for you. LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. All right, moving along here on the Tuesday edition of Locked On Jaguars, where it's your team every day. I'm Tony Wiggins, the host of the Locked On Jaguars podcast. Been talking about Shad and Trent Baalke. I call him the connection. That's right. That sounds a little organized crime-ish, but it is what it is, man. It's all in fun and games here. The coaching search has begun. I named the 8 coaches that the Jaguars have submitted requests to talk to. They were the last team to really start doing that, by the way. And if you remember, they wanted to get involved with Kevin O'Connell the year that they hired Doug Pederson, but it was actually too late. They didn't wait that long this year, but you just wonder why they were so late submitting those requests. I guess they're doing their due diligence. Some of the things that I'm a little bit confused about with Shad was, and Trent, Shad said, Trent said it's his fault too. It's ultimately his fault too. I just now look back and we felt like Doug and Trent were in the same place or that they were connected. And I don't think they were. Now that you hear the way Trent speaks and now that you hear the way Shad speaks and that he, had different communication with those two guys, it was their job to make us believe that they agreed all the time. But as time went on, you could kind of read the tea leaves and tell that those dudes weren't really rocking with each other the way that we thought. You can look back now at some of the decisions about who to scratch and who to play. And Eric Armstead talking about, well, I'm going back inside. That's what I thought I was going to do. Well, Trent Baalke's still here, so I guess the thought to play him at defensive end wasn't Baalke's, it was Doug Pederson's, and maybe Baalke disagreed with it. I will tell y'all this: a lot of people are sitting there thinking that Eric Armstead never played defensive end. That's just not true. All you got to do is go back and look at the tape with San Francisco, and he was a rotational defensive end or a rotational edge player on the outside, and he played some snap there. It wasn't like he was foreign to it. I saw him inside too, and I wasn't real impressed with him this year, but obviously he's going to continue to be here. They're paying him a bunch of money. I didn't necessarily like the Darnell Savage pick, but even with that, do you blame Doug Pederson for some of that, or do you blame Ryan Nielsen? And was Ryan Nielsen, Trent was involved in going out and finding Ryan Nielsen also. I mean, we've sat and heard Ryan Nielsen talk about their plan with the rotations. And he said, and somebody asked him whose idea was that. He said it was all of our idea. Trent was involved, and basically, I think he said Trent was involved, but it was Doug. It was all of them. They all collaborated on it. And I'm one of those people that believes when something doesn't work, that it's collateral damage, that everybody involved in the decision should have to pay. It's almost like snitching. Like we go out here and we're involved in some cartel business, or we go out here and we're involved in some illicit industry or whatever, and then we get caught, and one person just please, man, he starts singing on everybody, and then he gets to go free. That's the way that this all felt to me. So I hope I'm wrong. I don't think I am, and here's why. The only success Trent Baalke has had as a general manager in the National Football League is when he was attached to Jim Harbaugh. The second Jim Harbaugh was gone, the success went away in San Francisco. I have talked to Trent Baalke before, and nice dude. But he gets real comfortable. He says things in a way sometimes where you realize that if you had to work for him, you'd be like, yeah, I wouldn't like that very much. And I'm just comparing that to other GMs. I don't know if he doesn't really care for me or not. It doesn't matter to me where he does not. But all I can tell you is this. There's a different response to everything, and people respond differently. I I criticize Dave Caldwell way worse than I ever have Trent Baalke. Ever. And Dave ended up being a friend of mine and still is. So we don't take this stuff personally, right? At least I don't. I don't take it personal unless somebody makes it personal with all of us. But the fans have a right to take it personal because they're using their money, their emotions, their time, uh, and their psyche on rooting for this team. And it appears that they just continue to do the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Shad says that he's going to talk to people and hopefully they're comfortable with what the Jaguars are doing. I wouldn't want anybody to come in here and be comfortable with anything the Jaguars have done because they haven't been successful doing it. I would hope that instead of using the interview process as a source of validation and comfort, they would use it as an opportunity for somebody to come in with a plan that absolutely blows them out of the water and let that person lead. And then they do everything that they can to support that person, not finding someone that just agrees with or jives with the direction that they have been going in and just going to do a little bit of a better job in going in that direction. We can sit and talk all day about how things weren't good and how Doug wasn't the right guy. I can just tell you when they beat the Chargers in the playoffs, I saw Trent Baalke in the tunnel damn near give Doug Pederson a bear hug. Damn near give Doug Pederson a bear hug. Jumped on him, ran down there after the game, high-fived him, and nobody. I saw him after that first year say, we have our ball club. We're good. We're going to run it back. We just got to get healthy. And if anything, I think Doug Pederson provided a soft landing because of his personality, a personality that I think hindered the team. I think he should have got fired. I didn't like his way of leadership, especially with these coaches out here. Now, you ain't gonna beat nobody with Mr. Nice Guy standing over there. You need Mr. Accountable standing over there. So I did think that those things provided an easy excuse or an easy way for Trent Baalke to explain why he should stay and Doug should go. I do think the biggest fault in all of this is the fact that Shad felt like he had to make a choice as opposed to saying, you know what, we're going to totally start this thing all over again. I hope I'm wrong. I hope somebody comes in here and they're way better than Doug and that they can vibe with Trent. I just don't think Trent Baalke is ever going to be the reason this team goes to the Super Bowl and wins the title. So that coach is going to have to be really, really good like Jim Harbaugh was back in the day with the 49ers. All right, we'll have more comprehensive coverage, and we'll continue to update you as the information comes in on the coaching search. From this point forward, we'll just move forward and control the things that we can control. I'm Tony Wiggins with Locked On Jaguars. Make sure you tap in here, and you can also check me out on Locked On NFL after you watch it in the morning on the AM show with Tyler Rowland, and then come to the barbershop with me in the middle of the day, usually around 2 o'clock. We'll release those shows twice a day on Locked On NFL with the use of local experts that know your teams like no one else. Till then, y'all take care. We'll see you next time here on Locked On Jaguars.